something in 2-point perspective now. Get your sketchbooks out. And let me make sure I've got, yep, audio seems good. So we're going to start with the leading edge of the object. Everyone ready?
Yes.
Press enter twice on your monitor to switch it over. Or turn off the microcomputer by pressing the button to turn it off. So I'm not going to make this too big. What I just drew is meant to be this, okay? The leading edge. Remember, in 1-point perspective we have faces, and in 2-point perspective we have leading or receding corners, okay? If you're looking at the inside of a building, it would be a receding corner, and from the outside it's a leading edge. And now I'm just going to conceptualize this basic form to begin with. And I'm going to be thinking about where my vanishing point, where my horizon line is. So it seems to me that my eye level is about at the center of the windows on the door. And how do I know that? Because right about here it seems like this line is almost exactly horizontal. Can you see that? In 2-point perspective, if you find a horizontal line, that's how you know where your vanishing point is. This one I got a little off. So right about there. I could experiment and yeah, my eye level is probably just a little lower than that. You see what I just did? Oh, that doesn't work. I'm going to say the eye level is just a little lower. So hang on a sec. Let's get rid of these. And you see what I did? These go off my page, but they should. It looks like they're going to meet at an eye level that's more close to the bottom of that window. Yeah, I'm more comfortable with that. So basically, the eye level is almost centered on this pillar, but it's a little bit above it, a little bit above center. So just make a horizontal a little bit above the middle of your pillar. And I'm going to zoom in a little on this. Now the next question to ask has to do with foreshortening. So if this is X and this is Y, what's bigger in the picture plane? Y. Yeah, by a lot or a little? Yeah, by not too much. So what I like to do is I like to imagine, and you can do this with a pencil by measuring, but I like to just sort of imagine carrying this around. And if you did, you could see that X would be a little shorter than Y. So we can swing this around like this, and we end up with X being about something like this. And notice that the angle is about 15 degrees from horizontal. Well, that's not a good line. So Does that look like about 15 degrees to you guys? Yeah. I might have made it a little high. Okay. Now, depending on how large you made your drawing, you may be able to find a vanishing point over here. You see what I'm doing? Or it might be off your page. If you drew small enough and it's on your page, you can use it. Otherwise, you just have to estimate this angle as well. But even if you can't see the vanishing point, you want to draw it so that it looks like these two lines are going to meet at eye level. And then you're going to create another vertical, and that's that side. This is going to be my first video on YouTube with a mask on. Okay, so drawing the other side of the box is, we're also going to be thinking about our vanishing point. It's going to go like that and like that. Yes?
Okay, you know like the line on the top on the right, on the left?
Uh-huh.
Like what were you lining up to make that?
Well, I measured this angle, and then I found where it hit eye level, and I knew that this one would go down to the same point. And if you can't see that, if it's off your page, you just have to learn to eyeball it. But you see how it sort of feels? Even if you can't see the point, it feels like these are going to meet at this level. And that's the skill that, you know, it seems so hard when you're starting out, like I'm never going to be able to do this, but after a while you sort of get, you look at these three lines and you're like, yeah, these are going to meet at a point. Do you see how you could kind of get a feel for that? Okay, so the next thing we need to measure is this foreshortened distance. Whoops. This one. So from here to here, is this line segment here bigger or smaller than this line segment here? Smaller, yeah. It's about 3/4 of it, right? So this is the one we know. We could even measure like 3/4 of that, and that takes us to about here. We can also compare this line segment to this one, here to here, and notice that it also is a little smaller than this one. So we're always measuring from the things we do know to the things we don't know. And what we've created is a simple box that we can now start adding details to. So I'm going to show you a really fancy technique now, and don't stress out if you have a hard time following this. I'm guessing that the porch is 1/3 of the way back on the building. And one way to find that is I could use a ruler or just eyeball it, and I could divide this up into thirds, which would be about inches. So if I divide this into thirds and I create two orthogonals, and notice these are not orthogonals that are actually on the building, and then I create a diagonal that goes down, I've now divided that side of the building into thirds. And so the front of the building itself is about here. Does that make any sense to you? It's just like we just gridded this. See that? And you can grid a surface and perspective into any, you can break it up any way you want by using that technique. You can also just measure, and it actually, if I just measured it, I think maybe this corner is a little further back. So. And to find the peak of the roof, we use a similar technique, but it's easier because all we have to do is make an X across the front to find the center of the front, and then we're going to go straight up through the center of the X. And I could estimate that the peak is about a third of the overall height of the front. So I'm going to take a third of that and then go up the same amount, and I end up with something like this. And you can see how valuable it is that you already did, you drew things with peaked roofs in isometric perspective. Makes this much easier to figure out. So there's the front of the little shed. This actually comes up, this goes to the vanishing point, but it's a little bit above the bottom of the peaks. This goes to the vanishing point over here. This goes to the vanishing point over here. This goes to the vanishing point over here. This goes to the one over here. And what does this do? This one back here. We're just going to call these two parallel. They do converge to a point in space very high up, but for our purposes, we can just try to keep them parallel. When you draw this little window, make sure you make 2 verticals and 2 orthogonals. And this is all sitting on a little box, which again uses the vanishing points. The door is verticals and orthogonals. And just do the best job you can with what time we have left adding details, but I'm going to come around and have a look at what you did. And that's the end of this video.